Welcome, my name is Tashara and this is StarMade. And today it's finally time. I'm going to show some progress on my factory ship build. And if you're not aware, then I'll link the description of this. I'm not calling it a contest, it's more of a build initiative in the description below. But the community was basically challenged to create a factory or refinery ship in any way you want. There was just a size requirement that you can go above and some other requirements, but you can read that in the contest post itself. And I kept it on wraps what I was building up till now, but I think it's time, because now that we're during the last month of this build initiative, to show you what I've come up with. Because I've seen that most of the people that are going to enter this initiative already submitted it or are pretty much underway with their build. Although there are a couple of people that realized that they should really hurry up because it is only a month left in this build initiative. So yeah, that's not that much time for a pretty big ship to be built. But there's a couple of things I want with this factory build. Of course, it's going to be a ship. It's not going to be a station. I'm going to use my patented 5-high deck layout that I'm always using for bigger ships. I want lots of interactions, so lots of buttons, things like that, but also lots of docked entities to get this interactive feel with the ship. So I'm going to basically follow the path that the production or factory takes through the ship, from getting materials, processing them, and then shipping them out. So that's basically the whole production chain that happens within this build. So the first thing I always do when I'm starting a new ship is trying to figure out where the core needs to be, and that's usually going to be, for me at least, within the bridge section of the ship. And I decided to go for my bridge design that I more or less used in previous ships as well. I basically came up with this design with the Radiant Dawn, at least this iteration of it, and I'm going to use a variation of this bridge design on this ship as well, because I am using a lot of the things I did in previous ships, but in different ways or with slight tweaks to fit this current build, because I don't want to build something completely different. I want a ship that fits within my current ship roster that I already have, and is basically, if you see it, it will be a ship that's typically built by me. So I hope that explains it a bit. Try to figure out what length this ship is going to be as well. It's going to be very traditional, lengthwise being the longest size of this ship. So the other sizes really don't matter, because only the length needs to fit the specific max length requirement. This is the full length it can be, but I don't think it's going to be that big, because I know the time frame and I know myself. So having a ship that's bigger than as big as the maximum size, I don't think I'm going to can pull that off within 3 months at the level of detail I want it to be. And here we have the full up-built bridge of the ship that I'm going to use. And the idea is to have this widening to the side a bit more, and then have some elements to the side to add some additional bridge space to the top section of the ship. And below here you can see that I'm already trying to figure out where I want the decks to be. So like I said, the 5-high deck layout that I'm usually using. As you can see here, I used 2 decks above each other to create a bigger space for a docking section that I want to go here in front of the bridge. Basically the idea is that I've got this big docking space where the goods, whatever it is it's going to produce, are shipped out of the ship. So that's basically the bridge is overlooking the docking area. That's the idea behind it, at least. And this is what I mean with the docking area for the goods being shipped out. I got these containers, as you can see here, an orange one and a blue one. that I built previously in a different build. And I created a dedicated AI ship for it that only moves the container. So it's basically a set of engines and an AI core at the front over here, and then this frame that houses this container. And it actually works, but I have to jump into the ship over here. Let's deselect everything. And as you can see here, I've got two buttons on the ship. So if I press the unload one, you can see that this container unloads from this AI ship. And the plan is to have this container to be actually transferable between the main ship and these AI ships to be able to be moved. So then you can basically press this button over here, warning detach cargo, and then it will basically undock this container, and then it should in some way dock with the main ship and vice versa. So that's the plan at least. So you can actually use this cargo container to move cargo between the two vessels then. That's the idea at least. Yeah, I have to do a lot of framing around it to see if everything fits. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm doing the doors of this hangar section, because it still needs to be big enough for the ships to be able to shoot out. And of course, it needs to be, in my opinion, actually rail doors, because I can use plex or force fields, but I want actually rail doors on this docking area, and that goes for the other docking areas I have planned for this ship as well. And here we go. We've got a set of rail doors in place already, only just for this side, but I can copy them over to the other side easily enough. And I started to work on the detailing and armor plating to connect it to the rest of the ship and integrating it in the main hull of the ship. This area over here, marked in red, this is basically where the containers that are brought in by the robot ships, the AI ships, are going to be stored and then loaded in with goods. So then the ship can leave, or it can move to the AI ship and then be picked up. Got some temporary logic over here to basically trigger the door, so it's closed like this. And it has a docked water sheet here, just to indicate that the docked area is airtight of sorts, some sort of air shield. At least that's what I imagine it is. It is a docked entity because then you can put rails through it and without it interfering. And I also use that for the same trick to get these red lines in here. So as you can see here, it's a docked entity that can basically move up and down. If you press it over here, you can see. So this is the red line, and this is basically the same entity as this water sheet. As you can see here, it flickers in and out with this planing for the doors now. But if I move it down again, then everything is alright. So that also saves me a bit of the docked entity amount if I only use one entity for all these water sheets and inlay shapes I want to do in the ship. So hopefully I can keep it a bit down in the docked entity count. As you can see, I expanded the hull quite a bit and added these areas over here on the side. These are going to be docking areas as well. A big docking area over here and smaller ones in the side over here. This is going to change, by the way, but we'll get back to that later. I haven't really told you about what the purpose of this ship exactly is, because, okay, the challenge said it needs to be an industrial or a refinery or something like that. But I decided to go more of a recycling and scrapping route. So I imagine this ship is going to come in after a battle has commenced and all the enemies are gone. And this ship is going to recycle all the wrecks that are in space. That's the idea, at least. Or some other space junk it finds, or even raw resources if it can find it. It's possible, but it's not a dedicated miner or something like that. This is just plucking space debris out of space, then hacking it up in smaller pieces, then bringing it to the hangers over here on the side, then basically stripping it of all the useful components, and then either refine them or just plain store them and ship them out to be used somewhere else. That's the idea, at least, and that's the goal I'm going for with this ship design. So that's also that I have to keep in mind when I'm designing the rest of the ship. As you can see here, I added a bit more detail to the hulls already for the docking areas, especially this main one. Already put in a door section as well, just with some temporary logic as well, so it can open and close, as you can see here. So it's also nice and closed off. But yeah, this area next to it is a bit of a problem. Like I said, I had these 3 smaller docking areas over here, but these are very small. So that's something I'm going to scrap. I'm going to make bigger docking areas over here and make them 2 docking areas instead of the 3 I have over here. This is also important. This gray bit over here, this is how I plan things sometimes. Like I said, this is going to be a scrapping or recycling ship, and in order to get the scrap out of space, I wanted to add some sort of robotic arm or multiple robotic arms to the ship itself, so it could grab larger pieces of junk out of space and hold them in place until the worker bees, because of course I'm going to add worker bees, can cut them up in smaller spaces or pieces, and then basically drag them into the docking areas. So that's what I'm planning here, but like I said, I'm not going to keep this design for the 3 small scrapping docks, but I'm going to change that right now. And here we go. This is what I mean. It's 2 docking areas now. They are smaller than the main ones. They're a bit less deep as well, but they are bigger on the inside. And as you can see, as a reference, I parked a worker bee over here. It has some space for a worker bee and then the piece of debris it's bringing in, so it looks a bit more usable as a workspace than the size I had before. And as you can see here at the top, I started working on this crane design to see if I can get these robotic arms in I wanted. And because I only have the 2 smaller docking bays over here now, I can basically mount this crane in the middle now. So I can mount one on top and then one at the bottom, then on each side. So I've got 4 on each side, and then I want a main one somewhere in the middle, but that's for later. And as you can see, I also have a bit more of a layout how I want the hull to be built. So basically what I'm doing is I'm building modules. This is a very modular looking ship. I'm not saying it is modular, but it will look like it's modular. So I would imagine that if this ship was real, you could basically grab this docking module over here, pull it off the ship, and then put something else into its place. So it's a very interchangeable type of ship. It can be modified for the task it's needed for. So I imagine that this type of ship, this class of ship, no ship will probably look exactly the same within the same class, because it also has different modules depending on the task it needs to do. And the ship keeps growing and growing, and that's of course the thing I want, because I need to finish this hull eventually. And as you can see here, I completed my grabby robotic arms, and I copied them around on each of the sides and the top and bottom. And because these are docked entities, these are of course going to be animated. So I'm working on that at this stage. So you can see that the buttons are in here and the rotation is in here. But I still need to link everything up exactly how I want it. But I did set up a testing sequence over here. So basically it's pulls out like this. And then you got all the robotic arms turned around like this, but I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it at this stage. So then you press it again, then it's pulls back in. So yeah, that's the first main stage of interaction and animation that this ship will have. So there's hopefully going to be a lot more things like this in this build. But like I said, I'm trying to keep the docked entity count low, but I'm afraid it's not going to happen. Yeah, I think it's fine. That's what this build is all about anyway. Another important thing is that I am trying to figure out at this stage how big everything is going to be and where everything is going to be in the ship design. And as you can see here, I'm going to go for a bit of asymmetry. The plan is to have this module on this side for the worker bees, and then on this side we have some sort of storage modules for liquids and the metal parts that it gets from the wreckages it salvages. But how that's going to work out, I'm going to show later. Did a bit of planning on the back as well, where I want the engines to be and how long it's going to be at the end, but nothing more than that. That's just a basic guide how big the ship is approximately going to be, but of course it can change during the build. One important thing when building a ship like this is interconnecting all the different components, and that's this stage which you're looking at right now, all this messy lines. It's me figuring out how big and what size this component is going to be, and of course because it is asymmetrical, I need to figure out how I'm going to connect it to the main frame of the ship, and of course how that's going to work out for the other side, because that's not going to be the same. Yeah, that's the fun part of asymmetrical building. But yeah, it's basically figuring out all the lines where they go, how big the component is going to be, and if it can be matched with the lines I've got going for the main hull I've already have. So that's this stage, figuring it out. The different modules are really shaping up in a good way at this stage. And as you can see here, I did some work on the other side of the ship as well. And we decided to go for this cargo container, kind of slotting into the main hull over here. Really nice way to fill up this space. And because I use different colors for the containers, and you might have noticed for the previous section as well that they had this hull over here for this this docking bay in blue. So I moved that to this side, because if I had it on this side it felt a bit too close to the blue color on there. And this gives it a bit more of this patchwork modular kind of feel, but it's still one ship, and it's still going to be mainly the green, but it will have some contrasting colors in the different parts of the ships with the different modules that it has. So yeah, really emphasizing the modular feel of the ship, that you can pull things off and then put different things in its place. Yeah, figuring out this docking module as well. This is, like I said, a docking module for the worker bees. So I'm going to go in here. So this is going to be a large docking area. I can store lots of worker bees that are basically going to be my main workhorse for pulling in the wreckage and cutting them up in smaller pieces. Also did a bit of work on the bigger robotic arm I want to have here in the middle. So this is basically connecting with all these modules that I have in the front here. So that's why I left it for later, because it's all basically interfering with each other. But yeah, like the line suggests, I'm really getting really far in the front department of the ship. So basically this part to go, and then I have the front part of the ship figured out, but not the back and not the bottom of the ship. That's a whole other discussion. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do here, if I want to go down or not, but yeah, it's basically a big puzzle I need to figure out. But I think that's enough for this episode. I am planning to release further episodes the further we go into this month, and then hopefully conclude at the same time that the deadline for the build initiative reaches its end as well. So I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.